With the book, it was, I just wanted to try something, so I just, locked myself up in a room for a while, on and off, in between filming or writing other things, and I just let it come together like the way I wanted it, and I didn't get too many opinions on it, like unlike film where a lot of people have a say in what you're writing and things, because it's reaching out to a much larger audience. There's a lot more at stake over there, so I just wanted to do this in my little personal way. This is my thing. I just, wanted to get it out. It's incredibly lonely and, and you're just tearing yourself up, and you have a lot of self-doubt sort of creeping in at every moment. I think there are lots of writers here, so they know what I'm talking about, and, you just have to go with it.
Sorry, but if I may add, I feel like as lonely as the process is physically, you're never really alone. Because you're constantly with the characters that you're writing. And like he said, like you argue with, if you're working with co-writers, you argue and you debate with them. Similarly with characters when you're writing, the same thing happens even with that, because at times you'll write stuff and then you come back the next day and, you read a page, like, what is this? You know what's going on. So it's and you actually are hardest on yourself in writing. When you're directing, which Karan also has done very successfully, when you're directing, the thing is that there's so many other people involved that you actually end up doing the best that you possibly can, given everybody's temperament and given everybody's aesthetic and sense of performance. There's only that much you can do. Right. But when you're writing, you're really, really hard on yourself. Like the critical factor should really be up there, because you only have yourself, as a judge. Absolutely. As the best judge. So the more time you give and the more effort you put and the more you're willing to grapple with those ideas, and just really, really try to get the best out of what you want. It's tedious, but it's an amazing process when it comes together.
So what's the one thing about his writing style that you really like?
It's
storytelling ability.
I think it's unique. I think what does set him apart, whether it's the film that he wrote for us, it's the show that he's done, and now this book. I think what he has, his unique voice, and I think that's the most important thing that you can look for in any kind of creative force. It's very easy to write scripts that are doing the rounds right now. Aaj love stories chal rahi hai, come on, let's write a love story. Now thrillers are working, chalo, let's write a thriller. Comedies are the flavor of the season, let's get, you know what I mean? It's very easy to do that. Good and bad is a separate issue, but it's easier to do it because everyone's doing it. So you can fit in more easily. But if you're choosing to do things that are different from what is happening, and you know that there is a certain risk involved, and when that risk does pay off, like I think on a huge level when they came to us with Inside Edge, and the story that they had created, it was very risky. And we knew that there'll be certain feathers that might get ruffled along the process of doing it. But there was a serious belief in the material that he had written, and he had a vision for how he wanted to make it. And the writing was something that you don't get to read in at least in the Indian web series or TV series context. So that bravado, and that unique style, I think is definitely his USP for writing.
Mike's kind of gone.
Oh, thanks.
But no, it's okay. So Karan, this actually started off as a film script, and would you ever like to make a film out of this, or would you want to do a series out of it?
Yeah, right now I'm super disillusioned with the whole film scene. Sorry, but it's. I just enjoy this whole series thing a lot. It's like, why tell a story in 2 hours when you have 10 hours to develop your characters, and they don't even have to go from like a start to an end. And then all film sort of follow some kind of formula, whether it's like a setup, and then you have a crisis coming in, you have a resolution, and then you have a climax. So none of that applies in a series. Yeah, and then you have to do many things around it, like put in songs and things like that. Not always, but the bigger the film, the more safe I think you have to be with it. I think with the series there's a lot less pressure, and above all, I think it's just so much. It's easier in terms of how liberating it is without Palaj Nani sort of looking over your shoulder, and even while writing a script, you're thinking what will the censor board say about it, and just the natural way I think people speak, for example, you want to capture that. You can't do that in film or screenwriting, I think, enough. So there's a certain template that goes into filmmaking because of many extraneous factors that should not be there in the first place, especially with censorship, and I think that well, so far, there's none of that happening.
It's not happening so far.
So yeah,
All out with.
so any day I think a book like this would make a very interesting series, like in the Homeland kind of space.
All right.
Yeah.
Farhan, which are the few shows that you really like abroad and what's the type of series?
Which are the shows that I like abroad? Well, I've been watching many over the years. The one that I've recently watched and I've enjoyed very much is Mindhunter. Yeah, that's the one I've just kind of finished the first season watching that. So that's the most recent one, I think.
So, I thought the end of the book was lend itself to a sequel organically. So, what's the plan there? Is there a sequel?
There is no plan. There's never a plan.
I smell a franchise.
we have this conversation at the end of every film. Yeah, so.
But you end your stuff like that, even
Yeah, well.
Inside Edge.
Yeah. No, Inside Edge for sure there's going to be a second season because
Yeah.
we want that.
Inside Edge has a season 2, guys.
Officially.
Yes, it's official now. So, this.
Maybe. Never say never.
Alright. So, right, I have to do this. I have to do this. Farhan's right now.
Please don't say it's a rapid fire.
So, we have a little thing which is written for the book, which I'm going to read out as a trailer for a movie. Since and I'm just going to do it in a. I'm just going to say it, okay? Kashmir Rama's quest is to answer that one. I think, but I don't know. All right, sorry. I don't know what that sounded like. I have no clue what that sounded like. I've never heard that voice before myself.
All I can say is that you didn't need to wait for me. You could have started it.
Alright, so